Okay, back in the kitchen here on Friday, March the 6th. Can't believe that we're already that deep into the month of March, but you haven't heard from me in a little bit, and only because I was away visiting with my dad, and he and Mom are in a nursing home in Buffalo, New York. There is nothing my brother Paul or I can do to convince Mom and Dad to come down south here and out of the cold winter wonderland of Buffalo, New York, which of course has been home since 1963 for them. And so they aren't leaving Buffalo soil. They are loyal to Buffalo soil. But both failing in health, and Dad especially, and we've had a serious health crisis with him recently, and I'd really appreciate your prayers for him and for my mom, who is utterly, utterly devoted and connected to him. In fact, we thank God that they're at the St. Francis home in Williamsville, New York, because this is run by an order of nuns who are committed to keeping them together. And that isn't easy, especially when levels of care are different and so on. Institutions like nursing homes often separate husbands and wives, but these sisters are absolutely devoted to keeping Mom and Dad together. My two older sisters are there nearby, and we have other family members there who check in on them, but I try to get up at least once a month. That's my promise to them. And I was just up there, and Dad was undergoing tests for some pretty serious issues, so please pray for him. He will turn 80 on March the 16th, and my son Matthew and I will go up there. There'll be 3 generations of Shankmen together, so that's going to be very meaningful. Well, all that family stuff aside, there are other reasons you haven't heard from me. We've had a pretty intense schedule here. Yesterday, I was all day in Annapolis, the capital of Maryland, nearby Maryland, although Maryland's culture is so different from Washington, D.C., and from Northern Virginia, where I live, that it could have been a world away. And I had very interesting encounter there, meeting up with some folks who pray routinely at the state capitol, and had a wonderful time of fellowship with them. And then afterwards met with State Delegate Don Dwyer. If you know anything about the structure of the Maryland government, the state legislature is bicameral. Pardon me, that is, it's 2 houses, a House of Delegates and a Senate. And Delegate Don Dwyer has been a very courageous Christian voice when it comes to the concerns, especially on the sanctity of human life, which he's been doing a great deal with, and the sanctity of marriage in that state. And, Don Dwyer's been described to me as kind of a prickly guy. One person said he tilts at windmills. He's a constant crusader. And that is true, and it is kind of the nature of the beast, if you will. The kinds of people who take on these issues, who don't just go along to get along, often have sometimes difficult personalities. But this is a guy who's also going through a spiritual transformation of his own and of his personality. And I really saw another side of Don Dwyer yesterday, and it was very encouraging, and it was ministry to me. None of us are perfect. Look, join the club. We've all got personality quirks, hang-ups, and weaknesses, and he certainly has plenty of his, just as I do mine. But there's something going on in the guy's life, and it was very nice to see that while he takes on preserving marriage. And we're going to be asking pastors that we know to join him for a special strategic meeting next week in anticipation of a bill that will seek to open and redefine marriage in the state of Maryland to include same-sex marriage. Now, that is often interpreted as a crusade against persons of homosexual orientation. That absolutely is not the case with Don Dwyer, and it is not the case with Christians who are coalescing around this cause in Maryland, and it certainly is not the case with us. And I'm going to be writing about that, so watch for that. The Lord has given us a great ministry and friendships with those who who suffer same-sex attraction. And I think it's really, really important that we send a positive message to those who do, that we are welcoming and affirming, and we realize we are no better than they are. We certainly have our own big, long list of sins, and I better stop talking and get to making Cheryl's quick oats here, because she's got to get out the door, and I'm making her oatmeal before I cook up my eggs this morning, by the way. Cage-free hens here, certified organic eggs. I'm trying to improve my diet just slightly. Okay, I better go. I've long overstayed my welcome. I'll check in with you again on Monday. Have a great and blessed weekend.